Good morning. Propagating plants is a cost-effective and pretty easy, actually, way to expand your garden. And if you look in other people's gardens and you see something you like, chances are pretty good that you can propagate it. Today we'll talk mostly about native plant propagation. So we have a sword fern, we have red elderberry, and we have mock orange. And we have willow.
So say some things right now and test it.
Okay.
Just speak.
I'm going to be propagating some of these things this morning.
I think you're going to have to speak louder too, Julie, as you do it.
So there are various ways of propagating plants. Probably everybody has grown from seed. I brought some seeds here today, but there's going to be a program on seeds, propagating by seeds, in a week or so, I think. But I brought some beans that I've grown in the past. I brought a package, and one of the greatest things about buying in a package is they give you the instructions. They tell you where to plant it, how big it'll get, and what you should get in the end. And then I brought some wild sweet pea pods. Mostly the seeds have already gone away. I don't know if you can see, but this was a pod and it opened up and the seeds went out in the yard or wherever it was growing in my yard. I have a couple of them here that didn't open, probably because the seeds, like this one, it's moldy. So I guess the plant knew that it shouldn't spread it out in the yard. This one didn't have seeds. It grew the nice pod, but it didn't grow seeds. Some seeds go dormant and they have to be awakened. There's cold, moist stratification that wakes them up. You put them in water and 4 parts of sand, perlite, and you put them in the refrigerator for 2 to 3 months. At the end of that time, you should see some root tips, and then you can take them out and plant them immediately. The other is scarification, which mimics passing through a stomach. And that's where you're going to wipe off part of the seed coating so that it can grow. Lupine is a good example of that. Now, hardwood cuttings are what you get in late winter and early spring. This is willow, and it makes a great hardwood cutting, as do mock orange. We can take cuttings off of this and plant them. Also, red elderberry. Red elderberry, I always thought you couldn't eat red elderberry. However, according to Oregon State University, the fruits are bright red, not edible when raw, but when they're cooked, they make a good jam, pie, or wine. I'm into the wine part. Yes?
Is there a length or caliber or a number of nodes
Yes. 2 to 4 nodes on your cutting. I just have a long one here. I can cut it off as soon as I find the nodes. This one. This one's got a node down here, and then it goes way up here. So it's going to be a lot longer than the 6 inches they suggest. There's one here and one here. Once again, that's way longer than the 6 inches. So I guess from this one, we'd probably just make 2 cuttings. And at the bottom, you like to cut them at about a 45-degree angle. And then I have all kinds of tools. I love tools. I always scratch off a little of the bark. And dip them in water, wherever the water went. And in rooting hormone, and then I need to make a little hole to put it into, like that, and just put it in the dirt. Just as simple as that. Keep it moist. Talk to it if you like to do that.
Question, do you know what rooting hormone is?
What's in it, you're asking? If I could read this, I'd tell you. It says indole-3 butyric acid, 0.1%. I don't know if that tells you anything. It doesn't tell me. Other ingredients, 99.9%. So I don't know. Looks like cornstarch to me.
It has a fungicide in it and a growth hormone.
Okay. At any rate, these little guys will grow one of these days. These leaf nodes will keep growing, and you'll be all happy.
When you were talking about the nodes, is that for the leaves that are coming out of this thing?
Yes. Oh. What are the nodes? They are the little place where on the stem where the leaves will be coming out. I don't know if you can see these 2 little leaves, one on either side of the stem, and down here too.
How much time does it take for roots to develop?
It's up to nature. I don't know.
It depends on the species.
I planted this red elderberry about 3 or 4 months ago, I think it was. Did it as a live stake. So we cut it, poked it in the ground, like beat on it. And we did about probably 15 of them. And this one I dug up 2 days ago, and you can see the roots that grew in 3 or 4 months. And come this spring, all these little leaf nodes, all up this stem, they're all going to be growing, making a nice red elderberry. Mock orange can be done the same way. You can cut it off if you can find the leaf nodes. There's one and there's one. You can cut it off. They're awfully small, hard to find. And then I like to, like I said, I like to scratch them a little bit so that the root tone and this usually quite a bit of the root tone gets on your root. You just tap it off. And then just stick that in there and you'll have a nice little mock orange plant in some number of months. The mock orange can also be grown from root cuttings. So I have a large mock orange plant in a yard, and we went over there yesterday and dug up some of the shoots. And they all have really, really nice roots on them. I mean, we chopped them off, obviously. But these can go into the ground and make you a nice mock orange plant, and that's a lovely plant.
Once they are rooted, as well as these, do you still need to add rooting hormone to it?
No, I don't. No. They should just go right in the ground.
Edie, what was the question?
Oh,
The Zoom?
if they have roots on them already, if they have nice roots like these, do you still need rooting hormone? No. Those are ready to make a nice plant. Now, live stakes is where you take a piece of a plant and poke it in the ground. You can beat it in, but you don't use rooting hormone. This is a, I'm going to cut it off because it's too long. Just poke it in the ground. And that's what we did with this red elderberry. Just poked it in the ground. 3 or 4 months later, that's what you get. One of the things I like to talk about is the fact that once you put these things in a pot, you're going to look at all these little sticks and you're going to go, what the heck is that? So I have things I use to mark my plants. These are blinds, slats off of blinds, and they work great. The only problem that you might have, I didn't bring one, I guess, but I have chickens, and the chickens eat these. Don't ask me what's in them, because I don't know. At any rate, so you just cut up your slats, and you get your handy dandy marker out, and you mark that it's willow, or whatever it is, stick that in there. Simple. However, if you use markers, the weather, we have a lot of rain, the weather encourages that to wash away. So, I have another system. These are shingles off of someone's roof. I have a friend that had a new roof put on her house, so I just drop them. I love them. I absolutely love them. And then one of the things that doesn't wash away so quick is these little pencils. We used to call them grease pencils. I don't know if they're still called that. But anyway, you just mark on it. And I've gotten into marking, okay, we have mock orange. And then I take the marking pen and write over what I wrote on there. That way I have two marks, two systems. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So let's see, what else do we have to do here? Oh, layering. Where are my honeysuckles? This is not the native honeysuckle because my native honeysuckle doesn't have any roots on it. This is a pink and lavender. Sure. You want to take them out to my car? Okay. This is a pink and lavender honeysuckle that grew this winter underneath my porch. And this is what I pulled out, dug up a couple days ago. This has roots everywhere. You can see roots here, here, here. You can cut all these little pieces up and plant them, and you'll have beautiful honeysuckle. The pollinators will love you. I have this growing on my porch railing. So I have hummingbirds and butterflies and bees, my chickens. Everything comes and spends time in the summer with those. Oh, and we divide things sometimes. So we have sword fern. This thing is a mess. I just dug this up too from underneath a vehicle, actually. Well, my ground was frozen. I could have brought you a great big one from behind my house, but ground was frozen. So I couldn't do that. At any rate, I like to clean them up a little bit before I divide them. I'm taking applications for whoever wants to clean up this mess when I'm done. I'm just going to randomly cut now. So I cleaned it up, sort of. And then I always cut off some of the extra root. I mean, this has got root that's a foot long or longer. I just whack it off. And then, oh, look at there. We have two plants. I didn't even do this. It did it itself underneath that truck. So we have two plants sometime today. One and this guy. Now, this one we can also divide. That's really pretty in there. So now you have three plants. I only thought you had two, but you have three. Pardon me? I just cut it in half. I just picked a place. As looks like what? Listen, when you walk around with axes, scientific, huh?
How often do you separate your hostas and other plants that you forget about because they've been in the ground forever?
I don't know how often other people do. Yes. Oh, the question, how often do you separate hostas? I take my hostas in the spring. I don't know what anybody else does. I take them in the spring and I look at them, and if it looks like it's a big enough one, I take it out and split it. I'm great with axes and stuff because
I want to propagate my honeysuckle. And you said you didn't cut it for, and you just stick it in the ground. You don't need this on it.
no, not when you have roots on them like this piece does. But pass it. What, the honeysuckle? Sure. If I can get it out of here.
I think you need to teach a class in garden equipment 101.
I'd love to. I have a sledgehammer, I guess you call them. I don't know. And I go out there with my axe when I want to cut off of. This is not scientific either, by the way, Karen. And I just put my axe down there where I'd like to take off a piece of rhododendron, for instance. I've cut them that way, and they've grown. But you also can layer those. Anyway, I take my axe and I take my sledgehammer and I beat them until they cut off. A lot of this propagating these plants has a little bit to do with patience and whether it likes where you're trying to grow it. And then before you put them in the ground, you want to make sure that you know, like this red elderberry, it gets to be a bush. It grows out and it grows up 8 feet or so, but it gets pretty bushy. So if you don't want it to get too big alongside your house or your shed, you should put it somewhere else. I can't hear you. Some of these, like these, when do you cut these branches to put them in the ground? Some of these need to be done in the late fall, early winter, or like right now, if you're going to do the plant stakes. Other things need to be done in the spring. And I do a lot of herbs. I like to reproduce my herbs. And I have lavender, and I have rosemary, and I have oregano, and a whole bunch of stuff. And I'll be doing those this spring now, or if it ever gets spring. I see it's still snowing.
So bare root trees, is now the time to plant the bare root trees? Or wait?
Oh, when do you plant bare root trees? Mary, when? Now?
Now is a good time. The reason you would plant them now is just because this is a time the leaves are off and it's a time of root growth potential. So it's a good time.
Okie dokie. Huckleberry? Huckleberry you can do now. You can also, the huckleberry, you guys have it. The huckleberry you can cut into little sections and stick them in a bucket of water, and chances are pretty good they'll root also. And then you can plant them. What's that? How many huckleberries do you get off of a piece? Huh?
Success rate.
Oh, success rate.
Yeah.
Well, nature's funny, you know. I might take these home, or actually, I think somebody else is going to take them and plant them, and one will grow and the other one won't grow. You know, it's hard to say.
The huckleberries that I did, I was pruning a big shrub back, and I just cut it off. And I have this bucket of water that's full rainwater, and I just stuck it in there. And to be honest, it's about 75% stuff. They all sprouted. And that was 2 years ago, and I haven't taken them out yet.
Oh, wow.
I just made sure the water was off.
Another thing that's kind of fun is roses. That's not part of the well, actually, Nootka rose is a native, and you can propagate that also. But this same friend that had her house resided, she had a gorgeous peach-colored rose right alongside of her house, and she didn't want it. So I had to go over there and relieve her of all this rose. And I have about 20 little pots in an area in my yard with her little rose starts in it. And I've been out there last week or so a couple times, even in the cold. I've got little bitty buds coming out on a lot of them. I'm pretty happy. So you can propagate pretty much anything you take a notion to. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I didn't do science. Sorry. I just took the rose and I don't know. Oh, how did I do the rose? I just took the rose branches. I cut off the tips mostly. Excuse me. And I cut it in sections about this tall. And I do something that maybe nobody else does, but I cut the leaves in half or cut half the leaves off. I just figure they're not going to spend time making those leaves then, and then maybe they'll make roots. I'm not sure. I scratched them and I dipped them in root tone and poked them in the pots. So I should have quite a few roses.
I think there's time for one more question.
Okay. Any more questions? Yes, sir.
How do you figure out if you're going to root in water or soil?
Well, I don't know that I have a real answer. Some things will root in water, but some things won't, I don't think. I know that the honeysuckle does. I don't think the roses do, but I don't know that for sure. Trying to think of what else. I don't even know.
I
what
was
else.
looking at
Roots?
roses material.
Huh?
There's some good publications out there about
Yeah.
reproducing
Yeah.
native plants. And,
Actually, we have a few resources. This is something from the Noxious Weed Board that you can get for free. This is a little booklet called Cuttings Through the Year. I don't know where it came from.
it's from the Seattle Arboretum.
Okay. Okay. This is called Propagation Handbook. That's pretty cool. This one's called Propagation of Pacific Northwest Native Plants, which, if you're scientific, you'll love this. The author, Robin Rose, Karen Chachulski, and Diane Haas. Anyway, if you can't find information on Google, you can always look at books. Okay?
Thank you, Jenny.
Sure.